Okay, thank you for joining. So today we've got to our fourth lecture, where in our previous sessions we introduced HTML, then we looked into CSS and advanced CSS. So in today's session, we will now go back and have and we're going back to look into more features of HTML. So what we'll cover today, we're going to understand and implement tables and lists into our HTML, and we will now integrate CSS as well. So we'll have HTML functionality with good designing. So today we're going to look into creating tables using listed and unlisted tables. So we've looked into what CSS and HTML are, and today, now as you can see, we have a definition here. So what are HTML tables and lists? As we can see, tables and lists are fundamental element for displaying data and organizing content. So it is really good to have a good graphic. So with a good CSS and an enhanced approach to CSS, we can now design our tables and list. So list could be found when we creating, for instance, a navigation bar, or maybe we want to create a slide. So if in our web page we have various links to one or more articles, we can now use, for example, a list to create a small slide animation where our customers can now click, or they can scroll in order for them to look into them. Here we have an example of how our table has to be created with the use of tags. So as you can see here, HTML tags are created with the opening tag, then we put table, and then we use the closing tag. While when it comes to creating rows, we'll now have opening tag, tr, closing tag, and when it comes to headers tag, table headers, we'll now use th, for example. So here we have an example of how the code would have to look like into our HTML file, and this is an example of it. Also, as we mentioned, we'll now integrate some style into this HTML opening and into this HTML tag. So we've looked in our previous tutorial how we can add CSS to it, and this is pretty much the same concept, where we're going to have our header, our head, we'll now add our section, and then into it we'll now add the link to our CSS. Now we'll look into the advanced CSS concept using all the above rules of overriding and tags. So what do we mean by this? We're now going to have we're now going to look in how advanced CSS has to be used for overriding and tags when it comes to using our specificity. So we'll now have advanced selectors. As we saw in our previous tutorial, we mentioned the 4 types of selectors, where we can use pseudo classes, we can use pseudo element and attribute as well. So what is advanced selectors? We're now going to combine selectors that can increase specificity and pseudo classes that can now select element based on the state or position. So this is a code. This is the code of how this will now be implemented. We have our ordered list, and we've now defined what we want our CSS to have. So we want a font width, which we define as bold. So we could choose between italic style, underline, bold, or just leave as it is, and we now define as bold. And we want this to override. So we saw the example yesterday where by putting our mouse on top of the text, or we was now overriding it, and we saw that the image changed color. Sorry, not the image, the text changed color to pink. This is pretty much the same concept. So we initially have our CSS, and now we define a function. We define a new advanced CSS where we want this to hover affect for links within a specific section. So basically, it's pretty much the same concept where we'll now move our mouse on top of it. And what this is going to do, you will now have a text declaration underlined, and the color will now change to orange. Also, we have flexbox and grid. So what are flexbox? This flexbox is they are used for one-dimensional layout, while grid are used for two-dimensional layout. So what do we mean by one or two-dimension layout? So our layout, as we all know, can have different. So let's take example BBC News, which could have a very complex website that can be classified as a maybe let's estimate 7 or 8 type of layout, while a simple maybe portfolio of an artist could be 1 or 2 layout, because there are not as much information as we're going to see into our BBC web page. So when it comes to one-dimensional layout, we can now use Flexbox, while when it comes to creating a big website which will have loads of information, it will be now advised to use Grid, where we'll have multiple dimensions. And here underneath we have an example of how we need to
when you say multiple dimensions, I understand the flexbox. It seems like the flexbox is like one dimension, like it's on one plane of existence.
Yes.
For sorting out a table, tables and things like that. Maybe like to create a navigation bar. But what exactly does the grid do? What do you mean by two-dimensional layout?
So by two-dimension is a more complex layout. So as you said, if you have to create maybe a portfolio, you just need maybe one navigation bar. You make one list, and that's it pretty much. You just need to scroll through that simple web page. While two-dimension is a bit more complex, so you now need to contain more layouts. Does that make sense? You have more. You now need to add maybe more boxes or more HTML tags in order for you to have a more responsive website. Well, let's see if I can. BBC. You see? To realize a website like this would be more useful to use Grid when it comes to using the CSS, because this is not a simple layout. You see how complex it is? Joshua? Hello? Hello, Joshua, you here?
Yes. I'm saying is that the this area where you are right now is more grid.
Yes.
But the bottom part is maybe the footer or even the best of BBC. That'll
Yeah.
be Flexbox
Yes. Yes.
because it's just one, either one of the row or column.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
While a portfolio, we don't need to create a grid like this because it will be much simpler and easier web page. Sorry.
Okay, I understand that now. I just need to understand how you put it in.
Yeah. Here we have custom properties. So custom properties will now fall under the category of CSS variables. So we spoke about CSS variables yesterday, which, as you can see here, they will now enable us to store value for reuse throughout a document. So as I said, a variable is a value that can be changed at any point of time. Say, for example, we have our BBC website. So we can see that they have a primary color, which I do believe is red, where is a color that we can see can repeat multiple times on BBC. So maybe they could store this red as a variable CSS. Say in the future they want to change their primary color, make it, I don't know, green or blue. They'll use this as a CSS variable, and they'll now change this in the future because they know that in the future they'll need to make changes to improve the user interface. We spoke about media query yesterday.
Yes. When you say the root is like you can change anything in
Yes.
terms of the color.
Yes.
Part the but when you sentence the primary and the secondary, can you use it? Does it change automatically, or you can just sentence it like what am I trying to say? It's like you're trying to set up a widget where use primary color here, or
Yeah.
use you can essentially name the color to be used again
Yeah.
and again and again, rather
Yes.
than looking for it by
Yes.
code.
Yes.
Just
Yes.
naming it.
Yes. 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 Exactly. Yeah.
I
That's
see.
yeah. Because you know you're gonna be reusing it. It's not something you use one time and then that's it. You don't need again. So since it's a color that you keep on using, you must like save it somewhere.
I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah. Pseudo element, which will now target specific part of elements, um, such as before and after. So this is an example of how we will use them. We now add quotation marks before and after block code. Attribute selectors. So this will now target element based on the attribute value. So we're now going to change maybe the size of a text, or maybe the font. So maybe when we have like a mobile app, like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, they could maybe go and change the font of the app. You might not even notice they have changed this. So why? Because they're going to change a specific attribute. So they're going to change that specific font just to make some update and make the app look better. Advanced pseudocode, pseudo classes. Who now we spoke about them in our previous tutorial. So what we can do now, they will now be used for more complex selections. So we have an example here. We want this to style only the odd rows on a table. So we're now going to pick all the odd rows, and we'll now apply this change where we're just going to change the background color, and we'll then give it a specific color. Also, here we have a really interesting thing, which is transition and animations. So when it comes to creating maybe a game, Fortnite, Call of Duty, whatever, so on, it is really good to have a good transition or animation. Okay, let me not use video games as an example. Let me use what could be a website that has good animations? A gallery, yes. Yeah, for example, we have a art gallery, and as an artist, we want to want our website to be really good. We will now decide to use animations or transitions. So when you open our page, you see one image moving as a transition. So we now have a first image, then you transition to our second and our third, and so on. Or we can even use this sort of animation. So these are really nice, good effects that are going to improve our website. So it's just going to make our website look more professional. That's a really good feature. And here we have a example of how this transition has to be done. And we have example of how we use attributes. So this we'll now use with attributes.
A,
Yeah.
is that a link?
Yeah, it's a link. It's an attribute link, yeah. Well,
Okay.
because we're going to create a transition, and we've now defined our transition as a color of 3 second is, and so on. So now we're going to be combining advanced concepts. So we can now combine this concept to achieve sophisticated design. As we can see, for example, we can now use grid for a layout, media query for responsiveness, and transition from interactive elements. So this is a more advanced concept where we've combined everything that we covered in our session in order for us to have something that looks really good. So to conclude, we can say that advanced CSS concept can open a wide range of possibilities. So when it comes to creating really good web pages, it is really good if we master CSS, and we can now use them to create a really good web page.
Okay.
So we've spoke about how tables have to do are created with the opening and closing tag. We also have an example here, a pseudocode which can be pasted into our HTML page to see the results. And here we have to look into the difference between ordered list and unordered list. So what do you think could be the difference between an ordered list and an unordered list?
I believe
When
the
you,
difference I believe
when
the
we use,
difference would be
yeah,
that one will be numbered and one will be bullet point.
one will be numbered and one bullet point.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that can work as well. But let me just show you. HTML list. Why is he always doing this? I'm having some connectivity issues here. So as you can see, unordered list starts with UL tag, and this will and each list item starts with LI tag. So this is not mainly for bullet point, as you said. The list items will be marked with the bullet and the small ones without the circle. So we can create this even without bullet point. But in order for us to have a listed one, we must put it into a unlisted. Does that make sense? So the listed one has to fall into the unordered list. While here, the list marked with the will be numbered by default. Oh yes, yes. Yeah, there was a bit of confusion. Yeah. So the list unordered list will go with bullet point, yeah, and ordered list will now go with numbers. Joshua? Hello?
Yes, I understand.
Yeah, yeah. So this is the difference between one of them. Ordered one goes with bullet point, and unordered with bullet point, ordered with the numbers, yeah.
How do you make certain that they go in a row rather than in a column form?
1 second. On the row. So do you see that change? We can look into navigation bar. 1 second, let me just bring out the navigation bar, which is as the example. Okay. This is extremely annoying. So we have vertical and horizontal. Joshua,
Yeah,
can you see the screen?
I can see the screen.
Yeah, so this is the example. You see what you meant, right? How
Yeah,
do you put them vertical and how do you put them horizontal?
yes.
Okay. See if I can find the, yeah, vertical. So when it comes to vertical, this is a simple example of how they will look like. So we have an ordered list and we just declare them one after each other. One second. Why does it keep on doing this? Okay. Here, when it comes to horizontal navigation bar, there are two ways to create a horizontal navigation bar: by using inline or floating list items.
I see.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So we're just going to declare this either inline, or we now use a floating list item. So it's by having our list. So we choose how we want our list to be displayed. It's either inline or floating. Just close all this. Yeah. So this is the main difference of how to create them. So normally, if you just leave it as it is, you come on a vertical display. While if you use inline or floating, it now displays horizontally. So we've now looked into them. CSS for table and list. So we have the example, an ordered list, where at the top here, and then we have an example of ordered list just underneath. Here we have a full HTML document with CSS. So as you can see here below is a full HTML document example, which we're now integrating tables and lists with CSS styling. So this would be nice if you can try to recreate this yourself and see the outcome of it and see how this will now look into your web page. Yeah, so I'll say this is everything for today's session. Is there any question for me?
Just maybe a few. One of the things I've been looking at is the fact that all this table and list can be used for slideshows as well, is it not? Because
Slideshow. Yes, yeah, exactly.
so
Yeah.
it's not only just text,
No,
there's
no, no.
also
Yeah,
images that can be used in the table.
exactly. Yeah. So you see, we did the example of animation and transition.
Okay, so you can
So
use
we can
the
create.
animation on a nav bar, can't you? Because
Yes, yeah,
it's also animation on there. Not
yes.
to
So
mention, it's also on a slideshow.
exactly.
I see. Because one of the major highlights was definitely the animation
Yeah,
aspect and using the Flexbox or grid
yeah,
system
yes.
to more self-organize your thing.
Your boxes. Yeah, your images and stuff. Yeah, that's correct.
One of the things I've been trying to understand more is about how to structure the website so it's more cleaner. And I've noticed that it's
Um.
better when you're putting everything in the body,
Okay.
you can use, like I said before last time, you can use divs as like containers for
Mhm.
everything.
Yeah, exactly. So you're breaking down everything with divs. So you have everything will be broken down into div, and inside that div you can now style it as you want.
Can you also call those divs classes so that way there's a name for it as well?
No. Uh, uh, I don't know if it's best for you to use ID instead of classes, because classes are a lot of things. So maybe if you call a class, you might change something else somewhere else. While if you use ID, you're changing it specifically there in that
Oh,
place. Does that make sense? Because you might use a class and you don't realize, and it's now going to change the layout of another page. But if you use this ID, you're just going to make that change just there. Unless you believe that, okay, I remember where I'm using them, then
I
you use a
feel so
class.
that'll be because my idea would be utilizing like maybe 3 or 4 for one web page.
Yeah. Yes.
And because because I'm going to try and use more external CSSs.
Yes.
So specifically, like homepage CSS will be only for that home
Yeah. For the
page, but not
yes.
elsewhere.
Yes.
So that so all the classes for the divs will be only on that CSS file. Would that work? Because with the ID, it feels more like you can only use it once and only once.
Okay, yeah. So if you think you save you a lot of time, yeah, just use that. It really is really up to you, to be honest. Like, it depends how you code. Like, if you feel like, yes, this can save me a lot of time rather than staying there and changing this and that, that'll be best. So as you said, maybe you even reduce uh, the amount of code that is going to look into your external CSS. So yeah, just do it. Go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. You mentioned animations.
Hmm.
There are certain websites that allow you to do what's it called? Parallax scrolling. So it looks as if as you're scrolling down, the image in the background is like
It's
it's like
fading.
it has a visual effect.
Is it like fading? Is that
Not
what you mean? No.
not fading, like the image is it there's an image in the background, but as you're scrolling the image, you're also scrolling down the image alongside the website.
Oh yeah.
Is that does that involve CSS and HTML, or does it come with JavaScript?
Not quite sure about that feature because I never implemented it before. What did you say is the name again?
Um, Parallax scrolling, like PAR
Oh,
A
PAR.
L L A X.
Okay. Powerlex scrolling is a website. Sure. Oh, these.
Yeah, those.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's here.
Okay, it's already on the website.
How to, yeah, it's on,
How to?
yeah. So demo without.
Okay,
Ah, yeah. So there is an example with Powerlex. This is with, and this is without. Yeah. Is it on W3 School?
okay,
If is that something you want to add, yes, is it? Powerlex scrolling, yeah. Yeah. So as I said, on W3 School, there's everything you need to know about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Like, if you want to make like a good website, you can just refer to here, and you can just get the code and just tweak it and make the editing that you need for your own. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Is there any other question for me?
None at all at the moment, no.
Okay then. So if this is everything, and I will see you tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll have our introduction to JavaScript. So we look into everything, variables, functions, and everything you need to know.
Right, thank you.
And yeah, and then we'll have Monday, which is the last tutorial for this, and then the day after we'll have our assignment discussion. So on Tuesday we'll have the assignment discussion. So any question you have, we'll just clarify it in that session. Okay.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for joining, Joshua, and I'll see you tomorrow.
All right. Bye.
Bye bye.